Liberals have a future? For now, yes, but if the federal election is anything to go by, they're facing an existential threat. Here's what I mean by that. Since 2010, even though the coalition won government 3 times during this time, their primary vote has dropped each time. Labor's primary vote has trended downwards as well, but less steeply, and that's culminated in a total
seismic,
momentous,
catastrophic,
disastrous
wipeout over the weekend. The party's lost not only its leader, but also people who could have replaced him, and younger up-and-comers who were being touted as future ministerial material. This actually isn't the first time they've pretty much been gutted in a way. In 2022, their moderate faction, who were economically to the right but socially not conservative, was nearly wiped out by the so-called teal independents when they won their seats in Parliament. Now, the review after that loss found that the party was really struggling to connect to women.
The fact the party is not resonating with female voters, I think, is incredibly problematic.
So we do have to have the hard conversations now about how do we become more gender balanced, but also a broader diversity.
The criticism over how badly things have played out for the Liberals isn't just limited to departing senators.
Frankly, I think that there's a lot of questions to answer, particularly on the mainland. Our campaign headquarters in Parramatta didn't read the tea leaves, didn't talk to us in Tasmania, didn't understand Tasmanian issues.
So where do they go from here? First, the Liberals are going to need to choose their new leader. That person's also going to lead the Liberal National Coalition as well, but not the National Party. There's a couple of people who are shaping up as the main contenders here, Sussan and Angus Taylor. Once that's sorted, there's actually what the party stands for, and some in the coalition are insisting that they stick to their current platform.
Is this the end for nuclear?
I don't think nuclear was the reason we lost this.
100% I would like to see it hung on to. I think during the cycle there was not enough detail.
And this is where the party has some really tricky questions to answer. The Liberals have had 2 elections now where they've hemorrhaged key sections of their parliamentary team. At the same time that their primary vote has dropped, there's also been this key generational shift. So young people have always been less likely to vote Conservative. For previous generations, that changed as they got older. They became more likely to vote Conservative for the Liberals or the Nationals. Gen Zs haven't quite gotten to that stage yet, we will soon, but middle-aged millennials have, and they don't seem to be switching sides in the way that older generations did. So this was the first election where Gen Zs and millennials outnumbered the baby boomers, and those ranks are only really going to grow at the next election, so these voting patterns aren't a small thing. And if you remember that women problem from earlier, across the board, Australians have said they like the Liberals less and less since 2004. But women's support, which was already lower than men in 2013, has steadily dropped off since then. The coalition still won elections during all of this going on, but the growth in dislike of the party has been matched by this other bigger underlying factor. Generally, men are more likely to be right-wing, but in the main, since 1996, as you can see here, Australian men have steadily supported centrist politics, whereas women have been gravitating more and more to the left. No gender or community is a monolith, of course. Not all women or millennials or Gen Zs are ever going to vote the same. But when you mix all of these trends together, it spells some really serious trouble for the Liberals, and by extension, their partners in the Nationals, because they need each other to form government. So if the Liberals can't turn these trends around, it presents a serious existential threat to both of their places in Parliament and could potentially change what an opposition looks like here in future.